Can you get into this sport, Buhurt Armored Combat, totally by yourself, on your own, independent of any team whatsoever, and still be able to participate in everything from the one-on-one duels, the pro fights, and the melee, which is a team sports like 3 versus 3, 5 versus 5, and so on? The answer is yes. I'm the Butcher tonight, and I'm here to tell you just what you need to be careful of if this is what you need to do. Who would fall into this category of being an independent in this sport? Well, when I live stream Armored Combat footage, one of the most common questions are, how do I get started? And of course, that follows with, is there a team near me? And I forward everyone to, at least right now, you can Google search nightfinder.com. And like the first result is going to take you to an interactive map, which will show you a team near you. And then one of the most common replies is, like there's nothing near me. Does that answer stop you from joining and participating in this sport? No. So here's one thing to consider. You can always start a team in your area, but of course you're going to need to have some friends. So if you can get a group of people together, congratulations, you can create your own team, your own logo, and you know what? You're now the captain, or you can designate someone that you know that can run a team. And these are the problems that you're going to run into, and this is what I'm making this video for. So the very first thing is experience. There's so many people in this sport right now with no experience that experience is probably actually one of the least important things to consider. But here's some things that you'll actually need to know. I would very strongly suggest, before anything, you want to make sure that you even want to do this sport, so you'll need to try it out. I highly encourage anyone who's getting into this to be like an independent, because there's no teams or anything near you, to find a team. Go to an event. One of the very first things you should do is attend an event. So find one. It might be 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours away, but you're going to need to see this in person. Some of this stuff hurts. Here's a little clip from my Instagram of me getting hit from behind and getting knocked out. It's not something that happens very often, but just so you know, there are things that can happen in sport that hurt. The first thing I had anyone do is I went to an event, right? And I had a guy who had a helmet very similar to this, put it on. It was sweaty, but I did it because I wanted to try it, and he punched me in the face, kind of light. He's like, well, how was that? I was like, it's good. He's like, a little harder? It's like, sure. So he hit me harder. Okay, and I was like, yeah, that's good. And he's like, okay, I'll hit you as hard as I can. I was like, do it. And he punched me in the face with a gauntlet on as hard as he could. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this sport. That didn't turn me off from it. So you're going to need to be able to find, if you're going to tolerate, there's some high pain tolerance, high pain compliance in this sport. So can you handle that? You don't want to start getting into the sport to find out like, I really don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't like it, so try it first. The best way to do that is to go to an event and talk to the fighters. It's very open, like you can practically talk to anybody there as long as they're not busy doing something. There's so many times that new people will jump in, a little group of fighters and ask what it's about, and sometimes be able to try some things on in person that day and just to get a feel of what it's like. So this is the biggest thing, is that you do not want to buy anything at all. Don't buy anything now. You need to talk to people who've been doing this. I'm going to show you a great example why. Can you tell the difference, if you're new to this, between this helmet and this helmet? I have them on purpose. This is similar look, with the brass accents. What's the difference? This one, totally not okay for Buhurt. This one here is. If you see these little marks here, these are dents from getting hit with an axe. The same amount of force that put that little bit of a dent in there would crush this. So you need to learn what kind of equipment is okay for the sport. So many things out there are sold and marketed to Armored Combat Buhurt fighters, and it's not good. There's a guy who bought a whole plate armor kit, and none of it passed because the metal was too thin. Experience fighting is nothing to worry about. That can all be learned. And I'll tell you a little bit how to afterwards if you're out there by yourself. But here's some experience that you would need to know. So this saber right here, this is my dueling saber, and I bought it at Pensick. And I bought it knowing that it was not going to pass for Buhurt. It's rated to fight for steel, like live steel, but it's not going to pass in Buhurt. You know why? Because it had a point. So if you can see here, I actually had to grind it down I have a little gauge that made it exactly to fit the rules. Now, if I was brand new and didn't know, I could just go buy a saber. There's so many things marketed for steel fighting that is not going to pass. So this saber now is legit. But when I bought it knowing I had to cut off probably about 2 inches to get this thing to even fit in the rules. There's other little things. Can you tell the difference between this helmet and this helmet as far as which league are they okay for? This one here passes in pretty much everything. This one here, not so much. I'm bumping with my knuckles to try and keep the fingerprints and the grease off because this stuff will rust. Check out these eye slots. This big old eye slot right here, this will pass in HMB, like Buhurt League. This one right here, it would not pass in like IMCF. This one right here, IMCF. There's bars in here. This one has 1 bar, but it has this huge opening. This is not going to pass in IMCF. So what would you do if you bought a helmet that's going to pass in one league and not the other? Then you want to do all these events and then you get turned away because your stuff isn't good. So that is why you need to be able to look up a team near you or a fighter. You get on these websites like Facebook. Armored Combat Sports is the best resource for anybody to get on to find info on this sport. The best way to connect with somebody. You could be able to find somebody, like at least with a relative distance to you, that you can meet up with to see this stuff all in person and hands-on. So that's why you can do this sport, but you don't want to buy anything until you find out what you can use. You don't want to start getting into this without seeing if you're able to tolerate the pain. Honestly, I've never had a major injury, luckily. I've gotten some bruises like that video I showed you where I got knocked out, but that's about it. And I've been doing this for 5 years. So what happens if you're just by yourself and you're going to do an event? Most times now it's like you have to put down your name and everything. You fill out a release form and it'll ask you what team are you with. So it'd be a smart idea if you don't have the ability to create the team in your area that you would be able to at least register or hook up with the team. Whether or not you're actually going to be participating with them very often because you live far away. You know, our team is pretty cool. Like we've had people from Ohio come fight with us and now they actually have their own teams. But back then, you know, they could always fight like under our name and it wasn't a big deal, even though we hardly ever saw them in a practice, but we know who they are and they're legit into this sport and everything's safe, you know, and they're just getting started. And they would fight like with Pittsburgh being their team. So you might have to be able to associate with a team, which all comes down to being able to maybe attend an event or meet some people that'll be able to get you started and on the right path. And once you get this knowledge down, you know, and you're out on your own, you can practice and exercise and do everything to be fit and able to participate in the sport by yourself. The only things will be lacking if you don't do any kind of like martial arts or other kind of physical activities is the actual experience of events. And that will come as you participate in the sport. Like I said, the bar is very low right now. There's some really, really good people, but there are also a whole lot more people who really are just getting a feel for the sport still because they're less than a year in. So the main takeaway is do not buy anything until you actually get to an idea of what the sport's about and talk to people who do it and actually know what, you know, set you on the right path for what to buy. And the other thing is obviously at least start networking, have a little bit of circle of some people that, you know, in person. You know, being out there stranded in the middle of nowhere, independent by yourself is not impossible to get in the sport, but you're really going to have to meet up with some people first. And keep your eyes out too, because there's once in a while they'll have a seminar with someone who's been doing this for a while, will be featured at some team's practice, and they'll usually have like 20 or more people that come and learn from them for the day. So those are so the key takeaways to this video: don't be turned off if you're out in the middle of nowhere and have no one around you, but you still want to do this sport. You can, but you definitely need to get some hands-on experience to see if you're going to be able to, if you do want to do it, and you're going to actually have to be able to meet some people to get you started so you don't buy the wrong stuff. It can be an expensive sport to start up, but once you're in, events are usually free or pretty cheap, and there's a lot of perks. Like a lot of times, you know, for the Arnold, we paid $35, and we got an event pass for the whole weekend, which is great. It's like a hundreds of dollar value. Once you have your armor, as long as you maintain it, things like that, you can have a very long-lasting career with minimal expenses, other than things that break, like swords and shields and things like that. Hope you learned something. Maybe I'll just forward everybody to this video. If you haven't subscribed already, I suggest you do, because we cover all kinds of things like this on this channel. This is the Pashada Knight. Hope it helps you out. We'll catch you in another video.